So we now move to the medieval period. During the time of the medieval period, roughly from 5th to 15th century, humans were living in a more congested city with poor living conditions, and this resulted in large scales of a series of outbreaks of infections. Some examples are Hansen diseases or leprosy, measles, smallpox, and plague. The first well-documented plague was in the 6th century. It was estimated to kill up to 10,000 people according to historical records. However, the most devastating and deadliest during those times was the so-called Black Death of the 14th century. So the figure here shows the spread of bubonic plague or the Black Death in Europe from 1347 to 1351. Records show that Black Death came to Europe on trading ships that sailed from Central Asia. This ship has sick passengers and dead people on board. They docked into lower parts of seaports of Europe, and then within the next 5 years, Black Death rapidly spread throughout the entire Europe. It is estimated that Black Death wiped out 50 to 60% of Europeans' total population, and roughly 60 million of the world's population. To kind of demonstrate how severe it is, maybe 60 million now is roughly equal to half of Japan, half of today's Japan. So this severe spread of the Great Plague has led into the first organized institutional responses to disease control. At that time, there were no effective measures, no effective treatment against plague available. And among other speculations, the prevention was to avoid contact from infected person or contaminated objects. And as a result, officials were taking measures to prohibit entries of ships. In 1374, in Venice port, they took the first prohibition measure to deny entry of ships with infected persons. And then a few years later, in 1377, the Dubrovnik seaport in Croatia started to retrain travelers for 30 days, but later they lengthened to 40 days. And in Italian, maybe my pronunciation wouldn't be too nice, it's quarantina, which this gave birth to the term quarantine, and also the concept of incubation period. And this is to show you how the port looks like. This is the present day port of Dubrovnik in Croatia. Maybe as you can see here in these isolated stations, there were quarantine station that maybe asking the ship to being halt for a few days during the past. So the cause of plague was not known, not well understood at all, but there were many theories, and the most popular explanation was that it was caused by miasma, as we previously discussed in the previous slides. Miasma are invisible vapors, poisonous vapors from the swamps that floated around in the air. Others also thought that plague was spread by person to person. Hence the previous slide, we saw the measures of quarantine. Also, other theories included intentional poisoning. In the following slide, I will be explaining a bit more. However, the miasma theory was the most popular. And the photo here shows the outfit of the plague doctor, and with a special mask, if you can see. So the beak-like portion of the mask is filled with aromatic herbs, in believing that they will help filter the poisonous vapors or the miasma. And since science was not well understood by then, other theories of the causes of plague were also due to witchcraft and intentional poisoning. The photo here shows the Black Death persecutions that were a series of violent attacks on the Jewish communities that were blamed for the outbreak of Black Death in Europe during those 1340s and so on and so forth. So accusations spread that Jews were deliberately causing the disease by poisoning the wells. Jews were suspected because they had lower mortality rates as compared to the rest of the Europe. Why? Because due to mainly two major factors. First, because of their better hygiene rituals. They have these religious rituals of daily cleansing and washings. And in addition to that, the second reason may be that they are often walled off in a mandatory ghettos in a separate section of the town, in which that would naturally limit their exposure to the infections. Also, here the photo shows the incineration of personal belongings of plague-infected persons, which is the other measures against plague, were to burn personal belongings. Bonfire and smoking urns were believed to prevent the miasmatic plague, also during those time of plague outbreak. Leprosy was another major public health in Europe during the medieval time. And since science was not well understood at that time, leprosy afflicted persons were feared and misunderstood, and they were treated with discrimination. Lepers were stricken from the society as if the disease was a sin. They had to wear special clothing, if you could see, and to carry with them all the time this bell to be able to warn the others that they were coming close. Some even require lepers to stand in a dug grave and to receive this mass of separation, after which they were considered as dead. As stated in this mass of separation, maybe we could go straight to the middle section. I forbid you, if you go on the road and when you meet some person who speaks to you, to fail to put yourself down before you answer. I forbid you to go into a narrow lane so that if you should meet anyone, he might catch the affliction from you. So as implicitly shown in this mass of separation, again, the concept of diseases were majorly being related to miasma theory.